The first rays of sunlight filtered through the pale curtains, painting gentle streaks across my bedroom floor. I woke with the faint hum of the city outside, though in our little apartment, the world felt muted, almost suspended. Mother's Day. I had always approached this day with a mixture of anticipation and quiet dread. The anticipation came from the idea of being celebrated, of feeling seen by the people who mattered most. The dread, however, came from the expectations, the breakfasts in bed, the messy wrapping of gifts, the perfume of store-bought flowers mingling with the scent of my overworked, tired life. Today was different. The room was quiet, too quiet. My husband had left for work hours ago, as usual, and my son was likely still asleep after staying up late playing video games. But my daughter, I wondered if she would have something planned. A card? A drawing? A hastily taped-together craft from school? I swung my legs over the side of the bed and padded to the living room, barefoot, my pajamas brushing against my legs. The floor was cold, but the air was light, filled with a strange sense of anticipation. And there she was, Anya, my 8-year-old, sitting cross-legged on the couch. She held something small, pink, and slightly glittered behind her back. Her chest rose and fell with excitement, or maybe nerves. "Happy Mother's Day, Mama," she said softly, not with the loud cheerfulness I expected, but with a kind of reverent caution, as if she were handling something sacred. I knelt in front of her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Thank you, sweetheart. What do you have there?" She hesitated, biting her lower lip. It's for you, but can you read it out loud?" "Read it out loud?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She nodded emphatically. "All right," I said, trying to hide my curiosity. "Let's see what you've got." She extended her small hands, revealing a card, slightly bent at the edges. Glitter clung to her fingers and wrists like tiny stars. It was simple, pink with a few hand-drawn hearts on the front, but there was an aura around it, a weight I couldn't explain. I opened it carefully, as if unwrapping a delicate treasure. The handwriting inside was small, careful, and uneven, the way a child writes when they are trying to say something bigger than their words allow. I began to read out loud. "Dear Mama, I love you more than all the stars and even more than chocolate." I glanced at her. Anya's eyes were wide, unblinking, watching me as though my reaction mattered more than anything else in the world. I smiled. "That's very sweet, baby." She pressed her lips together and shook her head. "Read the rest." I nodded, my voice slightly trembling as I continued. "I know you get tired. I know you cry sometimes when you think I'm asleep." I froze mid-sentence. It was true. I had tried to hide my tears over the past few years. Sleepless nights, worries about bills, the pressures of parenthood, the constant ache of trying to be both a friend and a disciplinarian, a caregiver and a dreamer, all hidden behind a smile. I thought she didn't notice. I thought she was too young to understand. "I hear you talking to Grandma on the phone at night. I know Daddy is not coming back." I swallowed hard. My hands shook slightly. How could she know? How could she understand the small, silent moments that defined my life? Anya climbed onto the couch beside me, her little hand resting on mine. "She wanted me to know," she said softly, "I know everything you do for me, even the things you think I don't see." I felt tears forming in the corners of my eyes. I had been a mother for nearly a decade, and yet in that moment, I realized I had never felt seen like this before. I looked down at the next lines of the card. "Today is Mother's Day, but every day you are my hero. I don't need a perfect mom. I already have the best one. Love, your daughter, forever." I broke down completely. I pressed my forehead against hers, and she didn't pull away. She let me cry, let me feel every emotion I had been holding in for years. This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me," I whispered through my tears. She hugged me tighter, whispering, "I wanted you to know, Mama, I love you and I see you, always." And in that moment, I realized that Mother's Day wasn't about gifts, flowers, or breakfast in bed. It was about being seen. It was about love, real, unfiltered love that transcended everything else. We stayed on the couch for what felt like hours, the card between us, glitter scattered like tiny stars on the couch cushions, the sunlight warm against our faces. There was no need to say anything more. In her small arms and the weight of her words, I found a lifetime of reassurance. Little did I know, this card was just the beginning, because what happened next was something neither of us could have ever predicted. After the tears and the hugs, I sat back slightly, still holding Anya close. Her small hands clutched the edges of the card like it was a treasure, and in a way, it was. I looked down at the simple words she had written and realized that the card was not just a gift, it was a window into her world, a map of her heart, and a mirror reflecting my own. "Let me read it one more time," I said softly, my voice hoarse. Anya nodded, her eyes shining with anticipation. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what I knew would be both beautiful and devastating. "Dear Mama, I love you more than all the stars and even more than chocolate." I smiled and she laughed, a small, joyous sound that made my chest tighten. "Chocolate, huh?" I whispered. "You really do know my weaknesses." "I know you get tired. I know you cry sometimes when you think I'm asleep." Her words pulled me back to those nights, countless nights when I had sat on the edge of her bed after tucking her in, letting the tears fall silently, pretending she was asleep. I remembered the nights I called my mother, whispering about fears and failures, wishing someone could understand without judging. I thought Anya was too young to notice, but here she was, years later, revealing that she had always known. "I hear you talking to Grandma on the phone at night. I know Daddy is not coming back." My hands trembled. Anya had sensed the quiet sorrow that had followed me for years. She had felt the absence of her father, the hollow spaces in our lives that no amount of toys or candies could fill. I had tried to shield her, to keep her innocent, but somehow she had understood. I closed my eyes briefly, letting the memories wash over me. I remembered the first time I had realized my marriage was failing. It was subtle at first, the long silences, the way he avoided looking at us during family meals, the distant tone in his voice. I had clung to the hope that things would change, that love could somehow be fixed with patience and persistence. But the cracks grew, and eventually they became too wide to mend. Through it all, Anya had been a constant bright light. She had adapted, learned to fill in gaps, and yet had always remained sensitive, perceptive, and fiercely loving. I had admired her strength without ever fully grasping the depth of her understanding. "I want you to know it's not your fault, and it's not my fault either." I inhaled sharply. Those lines, written in her careful, uneven handwriting, struck me with more force than I had expected. I had carried the weight of guilt for so long, blaming myself for a marriage that had fallen apart, for the sleepless nights, for the moments when I had been too exhausted to be perfect. And now my daughter was absolving me, telling me that her world was not shattered because of me, that her love for me remained intact and unconditional. "When you feel lonely, I want you to remember you still have me. When you feel weak, I will be strong for you." Her words were a promise, a declaration, and a reassurance all at once. I hugged her tighter, feeling the warmth of her small body against mine. I had spent years trying to be her protector, her guide, her anchor. And now she was telling me that in ways I couldn't have imagined, she would be my anchor too. Anya's eyes sparkled as she watched me, silently urging me to continue reading. My hands trembled as I unfolded the final part of the card. I remember the first time I saw you cry. It was after you burned my favorite cookies. I was little, but I remember your tears, Mama. You tried to hide them, but I knew. You taught me that mistakes happen, that it's okay to feel sad and still keep going. I swallowed hard. Memories flooded back. The countless small moments I had thought she hadn't noticed. The first scraped knee I had kissed better. The night she stayed awake with me when a storm rattled the windows. The countless hours I had spent sewing her torn dresses and bandaging her little bruises. And yes, the mistakes I had made, the harsh words, the moments when my patience had worn thin, she remembered those too, but not with resentment, with understanding. I remember the first day of school. You held my hand so tightly. You whispered, "You're brave, my little star," even though your hands shook too. I remember every bedtime story, even the ones you told when you were tired and wanted to rest. My breath caught. She had noticed. She had seen the exhaustion, the quiet moments of doubt, and yet she had treasured every second. You've always tried your best, Mama, even when things were hard, even when you were scared. I want you to know I see that. I see you, and I love you for it. Tears streamed down my face as I looked at her. My little girl, sitting there with a pink card and glitter on her fingers, was revealing the most profound truth I had ever known. Love is not about perfection. Love is about seeing, understanding, and valuing one another despite everything. Today is Mother's Day, but every day you are my hero. I don't need a perfect mom. I already have the best one. Love, your daughter, forever. I couldn't speak. I could only hold her, my heart pounding with gratitude, disbelief, and awe. The card was not just words on paper, it was a lifeline, a bridge, and a mirror reflecting all the love I had poured into her life and all the love she had quietly returned. She hugged me back fiercely, whispering, "I wanted you to know, Mama, I love you, and I see you, always." The room was silent except for our breathing. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, glittering on the couch like tiny stars. And in that quiet, radiant moment, I realized something extraordinary. My daughter had given me the greatest gift I could ever receive. Not flowers, not chocolates, not breakfast in bed, but understanding, seeing, love. For hours we stayed there. We read the card again and again, laughing at the little doodles, marveling at her choice of words, and crying at the depth of emotion behind every line. I told her stories from when she was smaller, about the first time I held her, the first time she laughed at something I did, the first time she told me she loved me. She listened, rapt and wide-eyed, absorbing my words with the same reverence she had shown in her card. And then she did something I did not expect. She reached under the couch and pulled out a small envelope tied with a ribbon. "There's more," she said, her voice a mixture of pride and mischief. "I made this, too." I opened it carefully. Inside were more letters, notes, drawings, and small collages she had made over the years. Some were from school projects, some were just little scraps of paper she had kept hidden, all addressed to me. Each one told a story, remembered a moment, or expressed love in a way only a child could. I realized then that this Mother's Day was not just a celebration, it was a revelation. My daughter had been documenting our life together, watching, learning, and recording not just the happy moments, but the struggles, the tears, and the resilience. As I read each note aloud, Anya sat beside me, smiling proudly, explaining details, laughing at memories and sometimes giggling at her own cleverness. My heart swelled with emotion. I had thought I was raising her, but in truth, she had been nurturing me all along, teaching me lessons in love, gratitude, and courage. By the time the sun began to set, our living room was a small museum of memories, glitter, and love. The card, the letters, the drawings, all of it told the story of a bond deeper than words, stronger than challenges, and more beautiful than I had ever imagined. And I realized something else. This Mother's Day, my daughter had given me something even more extraordinary than her words. She had given me a mirror showing me not just who I am as a mother, but who I am as a person, a woman, and a human being deserving of love and recognition. That night, as she fell asleep in her bed, I sat quietly in the living room, reading the letters one last time. The glow of the lamp cast soft shadows, and I felt a warmth that went beyond anything material. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen, truly loved, and I knew without a doubt that this Mother's Day would stay with me forever. Little did I know the surprises were far from over, because Anya had one more secret, one final twist that would make this day unforgettable, not just for me, but for everyone who witnessed it. The next morning, the apartment felt alive in a way it hadn't before. The sunlight poured through the windows, but it was different now. Not just light, but a warmth that seemed to come from inside. Anya had already gone to the kitchen, humming a tune as she made herself a small breakfast. I stayed in the living room, the card open in my lap, along with the pile of letters she had given me the day before. I realized something that made my heart ache with a tender sort of pride. Each note, each drawing, each carefully written line of her card was a thread weaving together the story of our life. And I had barely noticed the tapestry forming beneath my own eyes. I picked up a small note she had written when she was 6. The edges were frayed, the handwriting shaky, but the words were clear. Mama, thank you for making pancakes every Saturday, even when you were tired. I love your hugs the most. I smiled, remembering those Saturday mornings. My exhaustion would often weigh on me, but I never missed those pancakes, never missed the chance to see her smile as she licked the syrup from her fingers. At the time, I had thought it was just a routine, just a moment of parenthood I had to get through. Now I saw it differently. It was a memory she had cherished, a small act that had become monumental in her eyes. Another note caught my attention. This one was from when she was 7, a simple scribble of hearts and stars. Mama, I like when you hold my hands when I am scared. You are braver than everyone else. I remembered that day vividly. She had been frightened during a thunderstorm, the rain lashing against the windows, the wind rattling the doors. She had clung to me as I held her tight, whispering that everything would be okay. I had thought I was comforting her, but here was proof, years later, that she had seen me too. She had noticed my quiet bravery, my determination to protect her even when I was scared inside. Tears stung my eyes as I traced the words with my fingers. Anya had been documenting our lives without my knowing. Every note, every card, every small doodle was a record of love, observation, and understanding. It wasn't just a Mother's Day gift, it was a testament to the bond we had shared for years in ways I had never realized. I flipped to another note, this one slightly larger and more detailed. Mama, I know sometimes you cry when you think I'm asleep. You don't have to hide it. I still love you and I know you try your best. You are my hero. I pressed my hand to my chest. My little girl had been noticing my struggles long before I thought she could, and yet she had never judged me, never made me feel weak. Instead, she had seen my love, my efforts, my perseverance, and had stored it away, transforming it into a gift I would receive years later. A wave of guilt washed over me. How many times had I doubted myself as a mother? How many nights had I lain awake, wondering if I was enough, if I was doing this right, if my children would remember me with love or resentment? And here she was, 8 years old, telling me that she had always known, that she had always appreciated me, that she had always loved me. I sat back, overwhelmed by the realization. My daughter, in her quiet, observant way, had been teaching me lessons in love, patience, and resilience long before I had noticed, and now she was revealing them to me in the most profound way possible. I picked up another letter, one from when she was 5. It was small, barely a page, but the words were powerful. Mama, I love you even when you are tired, even when you are sad. You are my everything. I remembered that day too. I had been exhausted after a long week at work, barely able to keep my eyes open. She had tugged at my sleeve, insisting I play with her, insisting I sit on the floor and build towers of blocks. I had wanted to say no, had wanted to retreat to my bed and rest, but instead I had smiled, and we had built towers that reached the ceiling, laughing when they collapsed. And now, years later, she was reminding me that those moments had mattered to her as much as they had mattered to me. I realized then that love is not just the grand gestures, the gifts, the celebrations. Love is in the small moments, the quiet sacrifices, the everyday acts of care that often go unnoticed, and my daughter had noticed all of them. She had seen my exhaustion, my tears, my fears, and had still loved me unconditionally. Tears streamed down my face as I read her words again. I couldn't help but think of the sacrifices I had made, the sleepless nights, the endless worry, the constant balancing act of work, parenting, and household responsibilities. I had always thought these efforts were invisible, unappreciated. But here was my daughter proving me wrong in the most beautiful way. I remembered another moment, one that had stayed with me for years. Anya had been 3, sitting on my lap as I braided her hair. She had looked up at me, eyes wide and serious, and said, "Mama, you're the best." At the time, I had smiled and thanked her, thinking it was just the innocent praise of a small child. But now I realized it was the beginning of a pattern of observation, understanding, and deep, unwavering love that she had carried with her all along. I sat quietly for a moment, letting the memories wash over me. Each one was a thread, connecting us in ways that were invisible but unbreakable. Each one was a testament to the depth of our bond, a bond that had been forged in love, struggle, and unwavering care. And then, as I read another letter, I felt a shift, a deeper understanding of who my daughter was becoming. Mama, I want to be brave like you. I want to be kind like you. I want to love like you. Thank you for showing me how. I couldn't breathe for a moment. She had not only observed me, she had internalized my actions, my values, my lessons. She was carrying them forward, shaping herself in the image of the love I had tried to give her. And in that moment, I realized that my efforts, my struggles, my sacrifices, they had not been in vain. They had created a living, breathing reflection of love, compassion, and resilience in my daughter. I hugged her again, feeling her small arms wrap around me tightly. "You are my hero too," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "You have taught me more than you will ever know." She giggled, a sound that was both proud and shy. "I just wanted you to know, Mama, that's all." I realized then that this Mother's Day was not just a celebration of me, it was a celebration of us, of the bond we shared, of the love we had cultivated together, of the lessons we had learned from each other. And in that moment, I understood something profound. Motherhood is not just about giving, it is also about receiving. receiving love, understanding, and appreciation in ways that often come when we least expect them. As I held her, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The guilt, the worry, the exhaustion, they were still there, but they were tempered by the overwhelming knowledge that I was loved truly and deeply by the most important person in my life. Little did I know, Anya had one final surprise waiting for me, one that would make this Mother's Day unforgettable in ways I could never have imagined. Because she wasn't done teaching me yet, and this last revelation would change everything. The day after Mother's Day, the apartment still held the quiet glow of yesterday's memories. Sunlight streamed lazily across the couch, where the card and letter still lay, now slightly crumpled but more precious than any treasure. I had reread them countless times, each reading revealing something new, a phrase, a doodle, a memory I had forgotten. Anya had been unusually quiet all morning. I found her in her room, sitting cross-legged on the floor, a small pile of envelopes around her. She looked up at me and smiled, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and mischief. "Morning, Mama," she said softly. "Are you ready for the rest?" "The rest?" I asked, curiosity tinged with apprehension. She nodded. "I didn't finish yesterday. There's one more surprise, but you have to close your eyes." I frowned, but a small smile tugged at my lips. "All right," I said, letting myself be led like I had when she was a toddler, holding her tiny hand as we navigated the world together. She guided me to the living room and gently pushed me down onto the couch. "Close them tight," she whispered. I obeyed, and I heard the faint rustle of paper, the clink of something metallic, and then the quiet hum of her movements. My heart pounded in anticipation. Anya rarely orchestrated surprises, but when she did, they were always magical. "Okay, Mama, open your eyes," she said. I slowly opened them. The living room had been transformed. Tiny fairy lights twinkled along the walls and furniture, casting a warm, golden glow. On the floor, spread carefully, were dozens of drawings, collages, and photographs, all chronicling moments from our life together. I recognized pictures of her first day at school, our trip to the beach, the first time she rode her bicycle, birthdays, and countless small, seemingly mundane moments that now felt monumental. In the center of it all was a small tablet connected to a speaker. Anya pressed play. The room filled with voices, my mother's, my sister's, my childhood friends, and most of all, Anya's. Each voice told a story, a memory, a message of love, a moment they had shared with me, celebrating not just me as a mother, but me as a person, a friend, a daughter, a woman who had quietly shaped the lives around her. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I could hardly believe what I was seeing and hearing. Anya knelt beside me and whispered, "I've been working on this for weeks. I wanted you to see everything we've done together. I wanted you to feel how much you mean to all of us." I felt my throat tighten. "Anya, this is unbelievable. How did you do all of this?" She smiled shyly. "I asked Grandma and Uncle Tarek for help. They sent me pictures and recordings. I've been keeping it a secret because I wanted it to be a real surprise." I pressed my hand to my chest, my heart pounding with emotion. Every photo, every message, every voice that played from the tablet reminded me of the life I had created, the love I had given, and the love that had returned to me tenfold. One video in particular caught my attention. It was a montage of moments I thought were insignificant. Anya spilling her juice, me laughing as I tried to clean it up, the day she got her first A on a test, and I lifted her into the air, the countless bedtime stories where we both drifted into sleep halfway through. She had captured them all, edited them, added music, and turned them into a story of us, of our life, of our love. I couldn't speak. I could only sit there, holding her tiny hand in mine, listening to her voice, watching the montage and feeling an overwhelming surge of gratitude, pride, and awe. This, this is the most amazing thing anyone has ever done for me, I whispered. You did this? She nodded. I wanted you to know how much you mean to me, not just today, but always. You've done so much for me, Mama, and I wanted you to see that I notice, that I appreciate it, that I love you more than words can say. I hugged her tightly, holding her close, my tears soaking her shirt. Anya, you've given me the most beautiful gift I could ever imagine, not just today, but forever. She giggled, wiping a tear from my cheek. There's one more part, she said mysteriously, handing me a small envelope tied with a ribbon. Open it last. With trembling hands, I untied the ribbon and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, written in her careful handwriting, the words deliberate and powerful. Mama, you think Mother's Day is about flowers and cards and gifts, but it's not. It's about love. It's about noticing. It's about seeing someone for who they really are, even when they think no one is watching. I have been watching, Mama. I have seen every tear, every hug, every sleepless night. I have seen your sacrifices, your love, your struggles, and I have loved you through it all. I want you to know that you are more than enough. You are everything to me, and I will never forget it. Love always, Anya. I couldn't speak. My body shook with emotion, and I pressed the letter to my chest. Anya wrapped her arms around me again, and for a long time, we just held each other, letting the weight of our love settle in. Then she whispered, "There's something else." I looked at her, startled. "Something else?" She nodded, a mischievous glint in her eyes. She ran to her room and returned with a small box. I opened it carefully. Inside was a charm bracelet, each charm representing a memory we had shared. A tiny book for our bedtime stories, a bicycle for the first time she rode, a star for the card she had given me, a heart for every hug, a teardrop for every time I cried and she held me close. I made it for you, she said softly, so you can wear our memories, Mama, and carry them with you always. I couldn't breathe. The bracelet was delicate, beautiful, and heavy, not with weight, but with meaning. Each charm told a story, a testament to our love and connection. I put it on, feeling the warmth of her love encircle my wrist, and I knew in that moment that I would never feel alone, never feel unseen, and never feel unloved again. Tears streamed down my face, and I laughed through them, overwhelmed by the beauty of it all. Anya, you've given me the most incredible Mother's Day I could ever imagine. I don't know how I can ever thank you. She shrugged, smiling. You don't have to. Just keep seeing me, Mama, just like I see you. And in that moment, I understood the full depth of her gift. It wasn't just the card, the letters, the montage, or the bracelet. It was the lesson she had given me about love, observation, and gratitude. She had taught me that love is reciprocal, that children can see and appreciate far more than we often give them credit for, and that sometimes the greatest gifts are not the ones we give, but the ones we receive. I hugged her again, holding her tightly, feeling the warmth and the depth of our bond. And I knew with absolute certainty that this Mother's Day and every Mother's Day from now on would be defined not by flowers or cards, but by the love and understanding we shared. That night, as I sat in bed, the charm bracelet glinting softly on my wrist, I thought about how incredible it was that a simple card given by a small, observant child could open my heart in ways I had never imagined. And I realized something else. The surprises weren't over. Because with a daughter like Anya, love always finds a way to astonish you, to teach you, and to transform even the simplest day into a memory that lasts a lifetime. The days after Mother's Day were quiet, but different. Our apartment, usually a place of constant bustle and noise, now felt lighter, warmer, more filled with meaning. The card, letters, montage, and charm bracelet were still around, each item quietly reminding me of the love my daughter had so carefully captured. But it was not just the gifts themselves, it was what they represented. I sat one morning on the couch, the charm bracelet resting lightly on my wrist, and I let my mind wander through the memories Anya had highlighted. I thought about every sleepless night, every day when I had felt inadequate, every time I had questioned myself as a mother. And yet, through all those doubts, my daughter had been observing, understanding, and loving me. I realized then that motherhood is not a one-way street. For years, I had assumed it was my responsibility to give, to protect, to nurture, to teach. But in truth, motherhood is also about receiving love, lessons, and understanding from the very child you have poured your life into. Anya had shown me that, not through lectures or words alone, but through her quiet observation, her thoughtful gifts, and the depth of her emotional intelligence. She had taught me that even a child can be a mirror, reflecting back the love and care we offer in ways we never imagine. I began to think about the small moments that had seemed insignificant at the time. The mornings she climbed into bed for warmth, the drawings she left on the fridge, the times she whispered, "I love you," in the middle of chaos. Those moments, once fleeting, now felt monumental. They were the threads that wove together a tapestry of connection, resilience, and mutual care. As I reflected, I felt a subtle shift within me. The guilt I had carried for years, the quiet, nagging feeling that I was not enough, began to dissolve. Not entirely, perhaps, for no parent can escape self-doubt completely, but it became lighter, tempered by the overwhelming evidence of my daughter's love and understanding. I thought about the way Anya had orchestrated her surprises, the card, the letters, the montage, and the charm bracelet. Each element had been crafted with thought, care, and precision. She had taken the time to gather memories, to reflect on moments both large and small, and to present them in a way that celebrated not only me, but the bond we shared. It was a reminder that love is active, not passive, that appreciation is not just a feeling, but an action. I began to see my own parenting in a new light. All the small sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the quiet acts of care, they had mattered. They had been noticed, cherished, and transformed into memories that would last a lifetime. And in that, I found validation. Not the kind that comes from external recognition, but the kind that comes from seeing the impact of your love reflected back at you. Over the next few days, I made a conscious effort to slow down, to notice the little things. I watched Anya as she went about her day, how she arranged her books, how she drew quietly in her notebook, how she paused to help her younger brother tie his shoes. Each observation reminded me of the careful, thoughtful person she was becoming, shaped not only by my guidance, but by her own innate empathy and intelligence. One evening, as we sat together on the couch reading, I found myself reflecting aloud. "You know, Anya," I said softly, "you've taught me more than I ever taught you." She looked up at me, eyes wide. "Really, Mama?" "Really," I said, smiling. "You've shown me that love is not just about giving. It's about noticing, appreciating, and understanding, and you've done that in ways I never imagined a child could." She blushed, a shy smile spreading across her face. "I just wanted you to know, Mama, that's all." I held her hand tightly, feeling the warmth of our connection. It's more than enough. It's everything. In the days that followed, I found myself carrying this lesson into other areas of my life. I began to notice my friends' kindnesses, my colleagues' efforts, and even the small gestures of strangers. I realized that the act of truly seeing someone, acknowledging their struggles, their efforts, their humanity, was one of the most profound gifts we could offer. Anya had given me more than a Mother's Day surprise. She had given me a framework for living. She had shown me that gratitude, observation, and understanding were not just feelings to be expressed on special occasions, but practices to be woven into daily life. One afternoon, as I prepared lunch, Anya sat at the table, quietly drawing. I watched her for a long moment, noting the concentration on her face, the way her tongue poked slightly from the corner of her mouth, the precision with which she held her pencil. I felt a swell of pride and love so deep it took my breath away. "Mom?" she asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart?" "I want you to know I'll always see you, even when I'm grown up, even when I'm far away. I'll always remember everything you do." I felt tears prick my eyes. "I'll always see you too, Anya, and I'll always remember everything you do." We sat in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that is filled with understanding, trust, and deep love. And in that moment, I knew that the lessons of Mother's Day were not fleeting, they were enduring. They were a foundation upon which we could continue to build our relationship, a foundation that would carry us through challenges, distance, and time. That night, as I tucked Anya into bed, I reflected on how far we had come together. I thought about the nights I had cried alone, the days I had questioned myself, the moments of doubt and fear. And I realized that every struggle, every tear, every act of love, big or small, had brought us to this place of mutual understanding and profound connection. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "Thank you, my love, for seeing me, for teaching me, for being you." She smiled in her sleep, a small, contented smile, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. In the following weeks, I carried the lessons of Mother's Day with me. I became more mindful, more patient, more present. I began to record small notes of appreciation for Anya and my son, leaving them in unexpected places for them to find. I took the time to notice the quiet acts of love around me, from my husband, who had been quietly supportive despite our challenges, to friends who had been steadfast in their care, to strangers who offered kindness in small, unexpected ways. I realized that life itself is a collection of small, meaningful moments, and that true love, the kind that lasts, the kind that shapes us, is built not in grand gestures alone, but in daily acts of attention, recognition, and care. One evening, as I sat on the couch reflecting on the past month, I looked at the card and letters one more time. I traced the words with my fingers, remembering the weights of each line, the love behind every phrase, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for Anya, but for the journey of motherhood itself, with all its challenges, joys, and lessons. I realized that Mother's Day had been a turning point, not because of the gifts or even the surprise, but because of the deeper understanding it had fostered. Anya had given me the greatest gift imaginable, the gift of being truly seen, appreciated, and loved. And in return, I felt inspired to live each day with the same awareness, the same gratitude, and the same openness to love that she had shown me. In the quiet of that evening, I whispered a promise to myself to carry this lesson forward, to live with intention, and to always see and appreciate the people I love, just as Anya had taught me. Motherhood had changed me in ways I could never have anticipated, and in the process, my daughter had taught me that the greatest transformations often come from the smallest gestures, the quiet, thoughtful, and profoundly meaningful expressions of love that leave an indelible mark on our hearts. As I closed the letters and cards, placing them carefully in a box to treasure forever, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Life was not perfect, and challenges would always arise. But love, real, attentive, and reciprocal love, was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. And in the gentle glow of the evening, with the charm bracelet glinting softly on my wrist, I knew that Mother's Day and the lessons it had brought would stay with me forever. Years had passed since that unforgettable Mother's Day. Life, as it always does, had carried us forward with its mixture of challenges, joys, and quiet routines. Yet, no matter how much time went by, the memory of that day remained vivid, etched into my heart with a permanence that nothing else could match. Anya was older now, a young teenager navigating the complexities of school, friendships, and growing independence. She still had that quiet, observant nature, though now it was paired with a confidence and insight that never ceased to amaze me. I often marveled at how much of her personality had been shaped by her early years, the very years when she had handed me that card, orchestrated the letters, the montage, and the charm bracelet. One evening, as we sat in the living room together, Anya handed me a small envelope. "Mama," she said softly, "I made this for you." I smiled, curiosity piqued, and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded piece of paper, slightly creased at the edges. She had drawn a small heart at the top. "Mama, I know I don't say it enough, but I see you. I see every sacrifice, every hug, every tear. I see your love in ways that make me feel safe and cherished every day. Thank you for being you. Love always, Anya." I felt a lump in my throat. Even now, years later, her words had the same impact, the same raw power to pierce through the noise of everyday life and make me pause, reflect, and feel profoundly seen. "You know," I said, my voice catching, "every word reminds me of that first Mother's Day card you gave me. Do you remember?" Her eyes lit up, a soft smile forming on her lips. "Of course I do. I was so nervous giving it to you, but I wanted you to know how much you mean to me." I pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly, feeling the weight and warmth of the years of love we had shared. "You've taught me so much, Anya, more than I could ever teach you." She laughed softly, resting her head against my shoulder. "I guess we've been teaching each other all along, haven't we?" "Yes," I whispered, "and that's the best lesson of all." Over the years, I had come to understand that the true gifts of Mother's Day were never about cards, flowers, or breakfast in bed. They were about the quiet, profound ways our children show us they notice, that they understand, that they love us. Those gifts were everlasting, far more valuable than anything that could be bought in a store. Sometimes, when life got hectic, I would take out the old card, letters, and charm bracelet. I would sit quietly, tracing the words, looking at the drawings, remembering the montage of photos and videos. Each time, it reminded me that love is a living, breathing thing, something that grows, evolves, and strengthens over time. I realized that motherhood itself is not a single day of celebration. It is a lifetime of moments, both big and small, that leave lasting impressions on both the parent and the child. It is found in the laughter during a bedtime story, the quiet reassurance during a storm, the sacrifices made in silence, and the heartfelt notes left in envelopes. And it is found in the love that comes back to us, often when we least expect it, in ways that surprise, teach, and transform us forever. As I watched Anya grow into a thoughtful, compassionate young woman, I saw reflections of myself in her, the patience I had tried to cultivate, the values I had hoped to instill. But I also saw something new, the way her love for others and for me had grown, shaped not just by my guidance, but by her own heart. I realized that motherhood is a journey without an end. Every stage brings new lessons, new joys, new challenges. But the bond between a parent and child, the ability to see, understand, and love each other unconditionally, remains the constant, the anchor in the ever-changing tides of life. Sometimes when Anya and I are sitting quietly together, she will reach over and hold my hand. And in that simple gesture, I am reminded of that first card she handed me on Mother's Day years ago, the card that changed everything. The words, the thought, the love, it all comes rushing back, a reminder of the power of being truly seen and truly loved. I often think about how different our lives might have been if that day had passed like any other, unnoticed and unremarkable. But it didn't. A small card, a child's words, and her careful observation created a ripple effect, a transformation that shaped not only how I viewed myself as a mother, but how I viewed life, love, and the bonds we share. And so, every Mother's Day, I take a moment to reflect, to remember, and to be grateful, not for the gifts, not for the celebrations, but for the love that grows quietly and steadily, day after day, in the hearts of those we hold most dear. Because in the end, the greatest lesson of all is simple, yet profound: to see, to notice, to appreciate, and to love deeply. And if we are lucky, our children will show us that love in ways that astonish us, teach us, and transform us forever. As I place the card and letters back into their box, carefully tying the ribbon, I smile. Anya enters the room, leaning against my shoulder, and we sit together in silence, content in the quiet strength of our bond. I know that the lessons of that Mother's Day, the card, the letters, the montage, the bracelet, and the love behind them will live in my heart forever. They have shaped me into a mother who is not just seen, but understood, not just loved, but cherished, not just giving, but receiving in the most profound ways. And I know that no matter how much time passes, that day, the day my daughter handed me a card and changed my life, will remain a cornerstone of our story, a reminder that love, when truly seen and felt, has the power to transform everything. Motherhood, I have learned, is not measured in gifts or days. It is measured in love. And thanks to Anya, I have learned the full depth of that love.